Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Pages, in which I talk about some of my many books that I own, how they came into my life, why I keep them, all that good stuff. So, for Episode 2, we are going to talk about If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino. I was introduced to this book in third year university, I think. I took a class on contemporary or modern lit. I honestly can't remember which it was. But it introduced me to a number of books that became instant favorites. It was a very interesting class full of um, unreliable narrators and pseudo biographies and all sorts of different kinds of fiction that I hadn't really encountered before. It was absolutely fascinating. One of my favorite courses, hands down. The instructor was Stephen Scobie, and I actually have one of his poetry books that I will probably talk about in a future episode. But on to Italo Calvino. So, the strange thing about this book and why it stuck with me is that a lot of it is written in the second person, um, speaking to the reader as if the reader is the main character. It's a little jarring at first. There's not many books that are written in the second person. Um, it's also extremely meta. This book is basically about a reader trying to read the book If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. But he gets into the book and it has either pages missing or a misprint of another book or something else. Like there's always something wrong with the book. So he has to keep going back to the bookstore and explaining what's going on. And it's just weird. And I kind of love it. Um, I'm going to read you a short passage where you are kind of hitting on the clerk. It's a little douchey, not going to lie, but it's well written and you're failing at it. You shake your head pensively. In fact, there is that risk. I prefer novels, she adds, that bring me immediately into a world where everything is precise, concrete, specific. I feel a special satisfaction in knowing that things are made in a certain fashion and not otherwise, even in the most commonplace things that in real life seem different to me. Do you agree? Then say so. Ah, yes, that sort of book is really worthwhile. And she continues, anyway, this is also an interesting novel. I can't deny that. Go on, don't let the conversation die. Say something. Just keep talking. Do you read many novels? You do? So do I, or at least some, at least, though nonfiction is more my line. Is that all you can think of? Now what? Are you stopping? Good night. Aren't you capable of asking her, have you read this one and this? Which of the two do you like better? There, now you have something to talk about. The trouble is that she's read many more novels than you have, especially foreign ones. And she has an orderly memory. She refers to specific episodes. She asks you, and do you remember what Henry's aunt says when... And you, who unearthed that title because you know the title and nothing more, and you liked letting her believe you had read it, now have to extricate yourself with generic comments like, it moves a bit slowly for me, or else, I like it because it's ironic. And she answers, really? You find it ironic? I wouldn't have said. And you're upset and you launch into opinion on a famous author because you've read one of his books, two at most, and without hesitation she attacks frontally the opera omnia, which she seems to know perfectly, and if she does, have some doubts. What's worse still, because she asks you, and that famous episode of the cut photograph, is it in that book or the other one? I always get them mixed up. Anyway, it goes on. It's very awkward and charming somehow. And the book is full of these kind of exchanges. It it was something that just drew me in entirely. It really made me want to read more of his books, which I have not done. In fact, I keep threatening to reread this one routinely, but I haven't. I still have it though, and here's why. Because I lost this book for a while. I loaned it to a friend, and she moved. She left the city, and then I was left with no idea of where my book had gone. I was quite sad. And it wasn't until about 8 years later that she reached out to me through social media, asked for my address, said, I have something for you. And by then I had completely forgotten this book, or at least that I'd loaned it to her. I knew it was gone because every time I went looking for it, it was not on my shelf. So then this arrived in the mail, and I have not let it out of my sight. It was seriously, when I went to pack my books, one of the first books that I packed to make sure that it made it here. It's the book that I keep to remind me not to loan my books. So if you were hoping to borrow some of these books, I'm sorry. I will point you in any direction you need to go to find them. I will hunt down a used one for you. I will do whatever it takes to find a library copy. But you don't get this copy, because it's mine. And that's all I have to say on Italo Calvino and this strange meta book that lives in my collection with its very salmon pink spine. It's a strange color. It really does stand out on my shelf, so I can see it at a glance. But anyway, I do recommend it. If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino. And that's another edition of Pages. Thanks for joining.